I'd really like to start by acknowledging that we are on Ngunnawal land and pay my respects to elders past and present, and pay my respects to the families and young people who many of us have the privilege of working with. Aboriginal people add such a incredible culture and history and understanding, a way of working, connecting with family and community and each other that I think we can all learn from. So I really encourage you to get to know the families that you're working with, and some of the services who do incredible work to support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are here in the ACT. Thank you for everyone who's online as well. Hopefully you can all see me, and I'm really glad that you can't all see yourselves and I can't see you and myself. It's always a weird thing when you're doing that. So especially as we've got a lot of presenters jumping up today. So look, the format and the way that things are going to work today is we've got a bunch of services who are each going to get up and speak for about 10 minutes. So you're not going to hear a really in-depth process of what they do and how they work with and case studies and things like that. It's really just an opportunity for you to get a quick glance of who's who in the sector, and think about who are the people that you might need to connect up with for the young people or families that you're supporting. Following the event, we will send out to everyone who was on the mailing lists to come along, kind of the notes and contact details of the services. So don't feel like you have to frantically write things down and you're going to miss them from the PowerPoints or from what they're saying. We will send that out to you in the next week or so. So you'll have all those contacts and things like that. We're going to get started because we have a lot to get through this morning. So I would like to first of all introduce Joel from the Woden Youth Engagement Team and Raw Potential.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name's Joel. I recognise many faces around the room, but for those that don't know me, I am the team leader of youth services at Woden Community Service under the CYFSP program. Perfect. I know we all love death by PowerPoint, but this is going to help me make sure that I get the message across as I would like to. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about Raw Potential, which sits under the banner of youth services within the CYFSP. A little bit different because it doesn't sit under a housing program. They're working perfect. So what is Raw Potential? Raw Potential works with young people, 12 to 25 years old from within the Canberra region. There's a lot of language being floated around Capital Region, ACT and surrounds. We just stick with Capital or Canberra region. And for us, we can be a little bit flexible around that. We work primarily with young people experiencing homelessness or at significant risk of homelessness. We support young people to explore safe housing options. First and foremost, we're a homeless program. But we often know that there are many factors that are contributing to that homelessness that we need to address while we're also looking at those housing options. We do that through a range of mechanisms, which I'll talk about shortly. For those of you who haven't heard of Raw Potential, it was created in the ACT in 1986. So it's been around for a long time, but it was created under what was called Open Family ACT, which was a national youth homelessness initiative back in the 80s. It had one clear goal, which is still its goal today, which is to support at-risk and vulnerable young people in the Canberra region that are experiencing homelessness. Later became Youth Care, which some of you may have heard through the sort of the 2010s. And in 2017, it became Raw Potential. It's been with Woden Community Service since 2021. So 3 years now, it's been with Woden. It's not centre-based or region-based like a lot of the other youth engagement style services are, where you might work in the south or the north or the centre of Canberra. We can work all over. There is no region lock. We're not an accommodation service. A lot of people often think when you work with homeless young people that you're an accommodation service. We are the link to those services, and we work very closely with those accommodation services in the ACT. One of the most unique things about Raw Potential, which I personally love, is it's not government funded. It is completely run on donations. It costs about $250,000 a year to run Raw Potential. And that money all comes through philanthropic grants, sponsorship through big companies in the ACT. We've had Snow Foundation on board, Hands Across Canberra on board, St George, previously Synergy, which was one of the biggest consultancy groups in the ACT. So collectively, they all donate money to Raw Potential, and it's able to operate outside of that government funding space. So what do we do? Our primary focus, our primary role is what we call a flexible outreach model of case management. That is our primary service delivery model. We assist young people to connect and navigate the other services that they need, which we call specialist services. So we essentially become the conduit, the middle part, the part that helps the young person, holds the young person to connect with those services that they need to. We do a lot of advocacy. We're in a lot of case meetings, a lot of case conferences. We spend a lot of time working with young people on the ground, but there is a lot of admin associated with that as well. When we're talking about homelessness, we know that there is a significant amount of things contributing to that. One of the things that we want to look at is how do we create positive opportunities for young people to be successful. Often a roof over their head is only the first step to being successful. So we've created and sort of championed a range of initiatives that are based around training, education. We've got a dentistry program for our young people as well, and a leadership program, which we call Raw Connection. Make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh, and we partner and work with a lot of other youth services. So primarily we work with the youth engagement team at Woden. We're co-located. We deliver a lot of programs together, but we do work with a lot of other programs as well. So I can tell a lot about what we do, but one of the best things I can do is show. And you can't argue with the real evidence of the work that we get to do with young people every day. So I don't know how well you can make those pictures out, but these are all photos from our Raw Connection program. So this is what we call our leadership and development program. So we've got two amazing volunteers, Tim and Anna, who fundraise throughout the year to put on these activities for young people. We do it 4 times a year for our clients, and it's all based around fun, social activities with like-minded young people. So it's got a focus around team building, leadership, resilience, self-care, well-being. We spend a whole day engaging in activity. Normally there's us and 20 young people. We've done things such as go-karting, rock climbing, laser tag, and what's the other one I'm missing? Outward Bound, the high ropes course. So we do that 4 times a year. There's just some photos of young people engaging in that program. As I mentioned, we have a partnership with the Australian Dental Foundation, and we run a thing called Dental Rescue Days. So we do these multiple times a year as well, where we help our clients access free dental care. We identified a gap several years ago that this was an area that young people just didn't have access to support when they were in the homelessness sector, the homelessness system. So we worked with the Australian Dental Foundation and some partners in the ACT, some dentists, to put on dental rescue days for our young people. It's hugely successful. I'd say probably 50 or more young people have accessed a dentist that otherwise wouldn't. Focus on training and education. So we understand, again, as I mentioned, that putting a roof over a young person's head may only be the first step. We want to create opportunities for them to have success, and we do that through offering particular training and education options. We partner with youth engagement team to do the pre-learner license course. We do the RSA and RCG with access training, and we do some resume workshops as well for our young people. Lots of events and partnerships. We do Christmas parties, all the NAIDOC events we do. I think this was at Raw Connection, barbecues, and we partner with other corporations as well to be able to offer things like legal support and services. And finally, fundraising. As you can see, me there with Ricky, bit of a highlight of my day. He brought his own love heart. That wasn't me. I don't know where that comes from. And we get young people involved. So we're really honest with all our young people. We're not government funded. We're funded off donations. And you'd be surprised how many of them want to come and, as they put it, shake the bucket. As you can actually see, there is a bucket that does get shaken. So that's us. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any about Raw Potential. Was that 10 minutes? Under 10 minutes?
Under 10 minutes.
Woo. Yeah, questions?
Do you have a time frame on your programs? And also, is there a waiting list?
Yeah, so time frame, no. We try to look at, we want to be involved with a young person for a short amount of time as possible. For some young people, that might be once, that could be one meeting. For others, it's years. We know that not all young people are created equally. Some need ongoing and sort of significant support. So we don't have a set time frame. Wait lists, that does depend. At the moment, there's maybe a month or 2. So we have a no wrong door policy. Anyone can refer referrals on the WCS website, and you just stick the referral in and then we triage and go from there. Cool, happy days, thank you.
Thank
You do that one.
We'll also send out, if people have got referral links and things like that, we'll send that out in the update that we send following this event. All right, next we have Mari from Safe and Connected Youth.
Cool. So yeah, hi, I'm Mary. I'm from the Safe and Connected Youth Program. If someone can just give me a bit of a wave if I'm going over time, and I'll try and do this as quickly
You'll be
as
right.
possible. So I am going to talk a lot about Safe and Connected Youth, but I'm also going to talk about a couple of our other programs today that also work in the homelessness space. And all of these programs are under the Conflict Resolution Service. So Conflict Resolution Service aims to provide evidence-based dispute resolution for children, youth and family reunification. So all the work we're doing is supporting young people and their families to have better connection and reunification wherever possible. Our core purpose across all the work that we do in the youth and family space is to preserve, reunify and restore. I'll let people look through this presentation a bit more in their own time when I send all of this out to people. So our main youth and family programs are our family support program, the family connections program that we do in partnership with the Multicultural Hub, and Safe and Connected Youth. And as you can see, there's a few other things that we also get into as well. So all of our family and youth programs are youth-centered and they're family-focused. So young people are always our primary client, even though we do work with the whole family. We involve everyone in the family who wants to be involved and who's safe to be involved. And we recognise that family systems are unique and we don't dictate who is considered family. That's up for the individual family members to decide. Sometimes that can be aunties, uncles, it can be extended people like cousins. And also if we've got young people who are in a situation where they're couch surfing, it might be the family, the other person's family that they're staying with. So, Safe and Connected Youth. It's for children and young people aged between 8 and 15 and their families. So if they've got siblings who are outside of that bracket, we're still working with that whole family as well. But these young people who are 8 to 15, we would consider to be our primary clients. We aim to improve family connection and prepare to reduce the risk of a child becoming homeless. So we work with young people who have already kind of entered the homelessness system, who are experiencing homelessness, but also young people who are at risk of that. And that risk can look quite different for different families, as we all kind of know. And there's no kind of one definition that we would necessarily apply to say this is a homeless young person. It really, really is very varied. We are funded through CSD. And the duration of our service, we tend to say it's 6 to 12 months. We say 12 months so we can do some really intensive work with families. But in saying that, young people's lives change every single day. And if we have a young person who needs support beyond that 12 months, then that's just what we need to do. And our referrals for anyone in this room, generally we say they're online through our website. But if families or any young people approach us at a stall, call up, see us at a school, that's absolutely fine. We're very flexible with how we'll take referrals from young people and families. So the principles of the Safe and Connected Youth Programme is really prioritising safety, and safety being the first thing that we look at in every situation. We assume that living with their family is the best thing for a young person until we have evidence otherwise. So really kind of looking at a model of supporting young people to be connected with their family. And that's coming from experience of young people who've maybe entered the homelessness system and have lost that connection, and that not necessarily being the best thing for them. And also acknowledging that lots of young people actually end up self-placing home with family in situations where they've lost that connection when they're a bit older as well. Working with the whole family, as we've talked about, really, really important key part of our service. So all families who are engaged will have 2 workers as part of their support in Safe and Connected Youth. They'll have a therapeutic case manager and either a family mediator or a family counsellor, depending what stream they go into. And that whole family is able to access that case management support and also that family mediation, which might look like family meetings or individual coaching or that family counselling setting as well. We're really looking to support relationships that are built on respect, trust, and open communication. So that's where we usually start with families. If that's not happening, and usually in a conflict space, that's where we're seeing some of those difficulties initially. And we're supporting the family to lead the service with the networks and connections that they need to have that sustainable change in their life, and to make sure that they're connected in the community with, it could be all the other services in this room that they need to kind of go forward from there. So our program has two streams. We have our outreach and preservation stream, and we have our therapeutic accommodation element, which is Ruby's house. I'll let people look through the rest of this later. So Ruby's has been running in Canberra since September 2022. Here's some photos of the house here. As you can see, if anyone's been in IKEA recently, we've got lots of donations and things from them, which is fantastic. The rooms do look quite plain, and one of the reasons for that is so that young people, when they come into the house, can personalize them in the ways that feel kind of unique to them. You'll see the kitchen here. We've got 2 fridges, 2 like cooktops, 2 microwaves and things. And that's really to allow young people to build up some of those independent skills that are age appropriate. So for example, we might be encouraging like a 15, 14-year-old to be really taking the lead and planning and doing some stuff for dinner. And if we've got an 8-year-old, we'll just be getting them involved in what that looks like to the best of their capacity. So it is a really supported accommodation because, again, we are working with a much younger age group here. We've also got a photo of one of our living room areas. We do have a couple of these. And that the idea of that is that young people's families can actually come to the house and spend time with them there. We have family dinners, we have movie nights, craft nights, whatever it is that family like to do together. So with having a couple of living areas, we've got an outdoor area, a living room, and a big art room. It means that families can come around and spread out and actually just spend time with their young person in the house. And when we've got young people that maybe have come into the service and haven't seen their family for a long time and they're not comfortable going home, that's a really kind of safe and therapeutic environment where they can be supported by staff to have those initial like engagements and family time. All right, so before I jump into family connections and things, I'm just going to do a bit of a time check. I've got
You got 3 minutes left.
3 minutes. Okay, I'll be really quick. Has anyone got any questions about safe and connected youth? Yep.
How long is the respite accommodation usually for?
It could be 6 to 12 months, but it could be a little bit longer than that if needed.
Yeah.
Something that I haven't put up in there because it does vary for different young people is generally we like to consider it part-time therapeutic respite, with the idea that they spend some nights at Ruby's and then they spend some nights at home.
Yeah.
But we also know that for some young people coming into Ruby's at first, that may not be possible, and they might be staying there full time initially, and that's okay if that happens. But the idea is that we try and get them to go home for a couple nights and then eventually full time. But that looks so different for different families, so we don't want to create a hard and fast rule on when that has to happen.
Just got a question online. Do you work with young people with disability?
Yeah, absolutely. So the criteria for Ruby's is really, really broad. We don't have any kind of strict eligibility there. We just need to have the young person have some family members in their life who are willing to work with us and who the young person can have some connection with. Sometimes there's an idea of they have to be ready to reunify with family when they come in. And most young people, if they've been in family conflict, if they've been couch surfing, that's not what they want to do straight away, and that's okay. So we do work with young people with disabilities, with drug and alcohol concerns, with mental health concerns. There really is no hard and fast rules around that as well.
One more question. Does Safe and Connected offer family functional family therapy?
Yeah, so we do have a couple of different counsellors, and they all have kind of different skill sets. So some of them really use a lot of narrative therapy and motivational interviewing. Some of them use that functional family therapy, and some of them do internal family systems therapy as well. Cool. All right, so just really, really quickly while I've got time here, just want to talk about family connections because this is a program that started up last year. It is, again, a 2-worker model. It's got case managers who are from the Multicultural Hub and case managers that are also from Conflict Resolution Service. And we're really looking to support multicultural families through conflict resolution as well. So it's got a bit of an older age range here. It's for 15 to 24-year-olds. Again, aiming to reduce conflict that leads to youth homelessness. And it is made up of case management, family mediation, and family counselling. And generally, we work with a family up to 12 months. Sometimes families resolve these conflicts earlier, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer, and that is absolutely okay. I'll probably stop there because I could just go forever. If anyone's got any other questions, happy to take them, and I'll send all this information over to Tom. Cool.
Alrighty, next we have Our Place.
Figured that was a question for Joel online.
Oh, too bad, says that.
Well,
You almost got off.
Well-
I'll take my.
well, yeah, we'll get them at the end before the break, maybe. That's
Yeah.
I'm doing work. Yeah.
Then just being like.
Yeah, but that take it.
Hello, everyone. So my name's Jay. I'm part of the Our Place Youth Foyer team here with Noah, Belle, and Moyen. Yeah, we'll just have a little conversation with you guys about what Our Place is. First, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land which we meet on today. Thank you all for being here in this beautiful part of Australia. So Our Place Youth Foyer. So we've been operating since I think 2011 in the same space, so going on 13 years, and been operating it as an accredited foyer since 2021. So that's through a lot of work with the Foyer Foundation, who sort of provided the resources and skills to staff to sort of ensure that we're running the foyer as intended by the Foyer Foundation. So yeah, we've been operating for 3 years as a foyer accredited Foyer Foundation. So Our Place, we're an education-based homelessness service, meaning that young people aged between 16 and 25, or 21 there, but we're sort of a little bit open with that one there. So you can stay for up to 2 years involved in full-time education or training. We've got 24 beds at the moment. We're sort of operating pretty close to capacity at the moment. And so, yeah, as a foyer, one of the big sort of goals with regards to what we're doing there is got a sort of place to live for 2 years, and in that time, we're sort of working with young people to maintain their education, and then also sort of identify where they want to go from there in terms of employment, education and employment goals, and identify any sort of barriers that might be in place that are making it difficult for people to achieve those goals, and sort of work with people to ensure that they can achieve what's most important to them. So we have a few sort of service offers that we offer. So we've got sort of like a key worker, caseworker, sort of case management sort of stuff, where we're primarily working on education, living skills and employment sort of stuff. We've also got Belle, who's the community development officer, who we sort of run like some life skill events. We do sort of dinner nights, a lot of sort of social things there. We've got sort of a drop-in sort of area, community sort of areas. So, but yeah, because the big goal is to sort of have not only a place to live for that sort of 2 years, but we're trying to build that community with the existing residents that are there. Yeah.
So that's some of the eligibility that Jay has already kind of spoken about. Some things that we've got going at the moment as well. We've got a counsellor coming twice a week, so a lot of the residents can talk to a counsellor at Our Place, so it kind of removes that anxiety of having to go to a meeting, and our discussions have been very successful. I think we're in the process of getting some psychologists to do the same, to come to Our Place and talk to people at the service there, which is really great. Yeah. Most of our referrals come through one link. We do get a few elsewhere, but I think it's pretty much all one link.
And if people have got questions on a young person that they're thinking about, it could be a good fit for our place. So we've got Siobhan, who is our manager's email, and one of the slides coming up. And then also if people they get my phone number or anything, just come have a chat to me afterwards. I'd be happy to answer any questions, both now and then in the future if you've got someone you're thinking about. Like I said, Siobhan, that's her email there. But yeah, come have a chat if you've got any more sort of questions around that. And then another big thing about the foyer model is ensuring that lived experience and the residents are a huge part about what's going on. So their say is very important into how we're running things, what life skills events are going to be relevant to the young people who are here. So we've Jane has volunteered to come up and sort of share a little bit of her thoughts on her experience at our place. Yeah, cool.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm currently completing my Year 12 certificate at Gungahlin College, and I've been living at the Our Place Youth Foyer for a year and a bit now. And I'm currently on my pathway to becoming a primary school teacher, hopefully. And Our Place Youth Foyer has significantly helped me through that. I was obviously homeless before I found Our Place, and it's been very good. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Cool. That's pretty much us. Yeah, thank you. I suppose there's some time for the questions if people have got them.
Did you end up hearing about this service?
I was going to the support room at Canberra High School, and my vice principal at the time told me about OneLink, and then I got linked in with OneLink and I got a referral to Our Place, and I was already slightly living independently, so I didn't have to go through a refuge. Yeah, I didn't have to go through a refuge to get in, which was very good.
So on a line house, how many can you house at any one time?
I think about 24, 25. We do have capacity to house young mums with kids. It's just all because we like to keep the sort of the ground floor units for the mums, so it's just dependent on whether we've got capacity at the time. But that's something that we've been doing recently as well, so young mums can come.
Yeah,
What about couples?
Couples, we have taken in the past. So yeah, that shouldn't be an issue. Just be about capacity and having a chat to us and seeing if we can facilitate it at the time, sort of thing. Yeah.
Did you say that the young person has to be engaged in full-time education or training?
Yeah, so whether it's high school, uni, TAFE, even apprenticeship sometimes. So just some involvement as close to full-time as realistic at the time, sort of thing. We understand that obviously when one is experiencing homeless, it can be hard to sort of maintain that attendance. But if that's a sort of primary goal that someone has, we're happy to sort of, accommodate those people.
So if they, like, what would happen if a young person takes a break from that?
It happens quite frequently. It's all about maintaining that discourse with your worker sort of thing to keep it sort of posted. But we understand that, people change their minds and what they want to do. So we're not about kicking people out if they want to take a break. It's all about working together to find, the best course of action for the young person sort of thing.
Do they have to be engaged in that education already, or can they come in with that goal and you guys can support them?
Typically already engaged. But yeah, as I sort of said, sometimes circumstances make it very difficult for that to be maintained prior to coming in.
There was something about centering. What was that about centering?
So in terms of, because rent's calculated based like as a percentage of income, and so we, eligibility is to have the unable to live at home Centrelink payment to go towards your rent. So we try and hope that people have got they're on youth allowance prior to coming in. And again, obviously, sometimes that isn't the case, but in terms of just getting your bond and your 2 weeks upfront rent sort of thing, it's a lot easier when people are already on Centrelink. Well, they could be working as well, but if people aren't working and they're studying, you're eligible for youth allowance as a student. So yeah, we want people to be on that. Cool.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Next up, we have the Multicultural Hub.
No, I don't have that prepared.
And it's like, I wish I'd gone first, so I didn't have to go after all the PowerPoints.
I don't have a PowerPoint, so you just have to look at me.
No, I can't do that.
That was the worst idea. So I don't actually have a PowerPoint. So
That's fine. You don't need a PowerPoint.
Listen, I don't. I've thanks Tom, I don't actually follow them, that's really pointless. And a few things have already been covered by Mari, and so this might seem a little bit like speed dating, so bear with me. So we are a community organisation. We're really specialised in working with multicultural communities, not just in Canberra. So we do have 3 centres. So one in Goulburn, one in Coomera, and one in Queanbeyan. So I know a lot of services here also branch out across the region. So just bearing that in mind that we do have multicultural centres. They're a little bit different to MHub, which we are fondly called, in that we probably do a little bit more around community cultural events and activities. We do weekly programs. We do a lot of case management, but at MHub we deliver more specific services. So I thought I'll go through our services a little bit more broadly, and then I'll talk a little bit about our youth service. And the reason why is, if you know anything about multicultural communities, it is very community focused. So you can't really separate, and we don't really separate the way that we work with our communities. We work very community focused, which means that when we have families and even individuals who connect with our service, they end up kind of being supported maybe through different services that we provide in a really holistic wraparound way. So some of the things that we do, we are mostly ACT government funded in Canberra in our services. So we have a counselling service, so we have a multicultural counselling service. It is only part-time at the moment, so Monday to Wednesday. So we have a bit of a waiting list periodically. At the moment we don't, and that could be up to 2 weeks is probably the maximum that we've got, so it's really short. And in that service we work with anyone. So some of the questions that we do get is around like eligibility in terms of visa. So a lot of people who are on temporary visas obviously aren't eligible for a lot of services and programs. We don't have that in any of our services except for one, which I'll talk about. So we can work with anyone who, as long as they identify as being culturally and linguistically diverse, they can come and access our programs. So we have our counselling service that works with any age group. We have a women's service, so we work with women across a broad range of different areas. We are funded by ACT government to provide domestic and family violence support to multicultural women, young people and children who might fit within that category. So we do a lot. That's probably one of our busier services at the moment. We do get a lot of referrals in for support through that program. We have a men's service. We're just in the process of developing a program to work with multicultural men who use violence, so perpetrators of violence. That's a trial through ACT government for 3 years, and that will work with men 18 and older. So referrals will start taking in from November just to get a bit of an idea of what types of behaviours we're going to be working with, but we won't start rolling out the service till February next year. And I'll talk about referral pathways in a minute. We have an employment service which does work a lot with young people. So we support anyone. So the only criteria is that they do have to have work rights, because some people who do come on certain types of visas into Australia don't actually have the ability to work here. So they do need to have work rights to be able to access that service, otherwise we can't actually get them a job. We have really good relationships with a lot of prospective employers in different types of industries, so we can get people into employment quite quickly. In certain areas like hospitality, construction is a really big one where we can get them a job almost immediately. Unfortunately, cleaning is one that we can get people into quite quickly, and we do have a lot of people who come who are very skilled, and unfortunately that is the only first job that they can get here. because of skill recognition and a lot of issues around that. But we work with a number of different RTOs to be able to help skill people to get their skills recognised, to be able to get them employment into the areas that they might be qualified and experienced to work in. And we do work with a lot of young people. So we get young people who come, international students is a really big one. So they have certain hours they can work. They aren't eligible for any government welfare, so they do have to be financially dependent. And so we'll be able to support them to get into employment that way. So our settlement service is the only one that has really specific criteria around who can access that. So that is people who are on humanitarian visas. So mostly our refugees and asylum seekers who come in. And that's funded by Home Affairs. And the whole purpose of that program is to support people once they exit out of support through Red Cross to be able to basically settle into life in Canberra, Australia. So we work with a lot of families through that program, with young children up to adults and teenagers. And there's a national settlement framework that we've worked against, and there's some pillars that we have to kind of make sure that we're addressing things like legal, transport, education, employment, housing, and a few others in that. And then our youth service. So as Mara said, we partner with Conflict Resolution Service for Family Connections Program. We partner with Finnies to deliver a multicultural youth reference group. So we've got a bunch of young people that sit in part of our youth reference group. And we're kind of a really broad youth service where we deliver a bunch of different activities and programs. So we go into schools and do school-based programs, both during school hours and after school hours. We go into Bimberi and we do a program in Bimberi as well. And we do one in partnership with the Junction every holidays. In Bimberi, we partner with a lot of youth services that are here to do school holiday programs. We work with the Youth Co and Human Rights Commission of Parajo to do some anti-racism work. That's been a really key part of the work that we're doing at the moment. Then we do a whole bunch of case management with families and young people individually. So our age group is the same as any other youth service. It's 12 to 25. We do have a little bit of flexibility around the way that we work, because in multicultural communities, you tend to be considered a young person until you leave the house, which for a lot of them is when they get married. So they could be, close to 30 before they might leave the house, and they're still considered a young person within their community context. So we'll still might bring them in and work with them in our youth service. And so our youth program is funded through CYFSP and also through DSS, the Department of Social Services. So kind of got two different streams there. So we're not a homelessness specialist service in that we don't have accommodation, but we do work with young people who are at risk of homelessness or who are experiencing homelessness. And some of them are really complex because they might be on temporary visas, so their ability to access public housing and other things like that is really limited to unavailable for them. And so working with them and other services to be able to make sure that they are appropriately accommodated. And for some of those things, we actually rely really heavily on our relationships with multicultural communities and community leaders to be able to, potentially get them into some sort of supportive accommodation within their community while we try and work out something a little bit more long-term for them. I feel like I'm probably forgetting a whole bunch of things, but it's really broad. I guess just a bit of ways that we sometimes support other services working with multicultural people is we're always really, really keen and available on the end of the phone to just have a conversation if you're unsure about the cultural context of a particular family or young person that you're working with, because it is different. And the thing that we try and really push to other services is that there's no one box that fits multicultural communities. Every community group is actually quite different, and there are different ways to work with them. And having a little bit of that cultural understanding can go a really long way to be able to work with that young person or their family. And so we're really happy to kind of answer some questions. We do it quite frequently to be able to give some of that cultural context. We are not an interpreting service, but we do sometimes, if we're able to, do a little bit of interpreting support for families that are working with other services. So they might not be our client, but we can provide a little bit of that type of support to services that need it. And the reason why is we went through a bit of a period a few years ago where just for any multicultural person, so it wasn't just young people, we were getting referrals coming in. And we were finding that it was because people just weren't sure how to work within that cultural context with some of these families or that individual, but they actually didn't want to work with us, and that's okay. We understand that. community and privacy and confidentiality is something that can be really missing within the multicultural space. So they might not want to come in and work with us because they don't want their community to know that they're getting some type of support, and they want to be able to go to other services. So we did a lot of work around that time to say to services, don't just refer them because they're a multicultural person. Actually work with them the way you would with anyone, and we'll give you that support to work with them within that cultural context. So that way our communities know that they can actually access any service within Canberra. They don't just have to come to multicultural specific services, because that becomes a barrier in itself. With some of the school programs that we do some one-off stuff. So at the moment we've been going into schools at their request to do just really short one-off targeted programs around cultural identity and inclusion. So going in and working with the students around what does culture, what does identity, belonging look like? Because that's something that we see a lot of young people experiencing, where they're really trying to understand their own cultural identity and how to match that with their parents' expectations. And those are the things that lead to young people intersecting with family connections, because that's where they're experiencing family conflict, because maybe what they want to do is not quite matching up with what their parents expect them to do culturally. So we do go in and do a lot of support with young people in schools around that as well. In terms of referrals, we're really easy. We've got a referral form on our website that you can fill in and just email through. We do get emails with people just sending through some information, asking if we might be able to take on that referral. That's fine as well. If you're going to do that, we just ask for a little bit of information if you're not going to use our referral form, and things that we really specifically want to understand is their cultural background, but also if they need an interpreter, because that will just help us be able to make sure that we're going to be able to contact them the right way first off, because that first engagement is really important to be able to start working with them. There's a lot of information. Does anyone have any questions about anything? I thought that was a lot. I just felt like I probably should have had. Maybe I should have done a dance. But does anyone have any questions for me? Yes.
For any of the people that are on temporary visa and for them to access any of these services, is there like a time frame of them staying in Australia? Like, for example, if you have been in Australia for more than, I don't know, 5 years or something like that, in some places maybe they cannot access that because you might think, or you can like assume that person has been able to settle in Australia, but we know that sometimes it can take longer than that, depending of course on your English knowledge, on your capacities and many things. So would you like, if for example someone has been here for longer but still, struggling, or maybe they're moving from Perth to Canberra, which is different, do you provide any sort of like assistance in that case?
Yeah, so the stupidest thing that Home Affairs ever did was when they introduced settlement services, was they made it restricted that you could only work with people coming on humanitarian visas for the first 5 years of their stay in Australia. Once they hit 5 years, I'm not allowed to work with them. There's so much advocacy that went in to say, how can you be so prescriptive to say 5 years is all it'll take me to belong and settle into life in Australia? That might not actually happen, and that doesn't happen. What we were doing at that time, because our only program that had that criteria was our settlement service, we would just transition them into one of our other programs and keep working with them. We've been in Canberra, so in Queanbeyan we've been about close to 50 years. In Canberra is 23. We have clients that have been with us for 23 years, and I wouldn't call them a client, but they still do. They come and hang out because they love us, and we're like their family now. Because they don't have maybe other connections and family members here. But some of them have been with us for 10 plus years. So yes, we absolutely do. We just transition them into a different program. But last year in December, Home Affairs, after a lot of advocacy nationally, removed that criteria. So no settlement service provider should only be working with families for 5 years and then stopping that. They can work with them as long as they need to be able to support that family. So if you do hear of any providers that say that, that's not actually correct. That's come from Home Affairs. So all of our contracts changed to reflect that. Yeah. And I guess the only other one I didn't mention, but I don't know, are you presenting, Maddie? Oh, Gunner's Place. Oh my God. I'm glad I looked at you. So we have a collaborative centre, youth and community space in Bengali. You might have heard of it, Gunner's Place. So that's in partnership. So MHub, Northside, Bernardo's, and Relationships Australia. So We're based up near, just a little bit past Bunnings on Gribble Street. We do collaborative drop-in on Wednesdays, so today from 2 till 5, is that right? And the last Friday of every month, we also do a collaborative drop-in that's open till a little bit later, till 7 o'clock. And then each organisation has dedicated days where we do different programs and activities that we run out of that space. So the best thing is just to check with the different services if there's anything you're interested in. So for example, on Thursdays, MHub facilitates a migrant women's art group every Thursday during school term. We do collaborative activities during the school holiday program each of the weeks. And it's also available for any community organisation to hire and use that space if you want. It's really nice. It's brand new. It's just been fitted out and looks really, really nice. So yeah, that's it. Well, there's no other questions. Thank you.
I think one of my big takeaways from that is that this event is like speed dating, but I think it's like bad speed dating where one person just does all the talking and you maybe get to throw a question in at the end if you're really lucky.
See how many podcasts after the speed.
Cool. So we're just going to mix the agenda up a little bit. And sorry, Joel, I'm going to throw you under the bus to go a bit earlier if that's right. So we have one link now.
Thank you.
Let me sort this out.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Joel. I'm the program manager at OneLink. I didn't really know what would be most helpful for everyone to know. I think, and I hope that most people have heard of us before. We are the central intake service for people accessing housing and community supports in the ACT. I know that some people will send a referral out and then maybe their client or service user will be connected. Maybe there'll be a waiting time. I guess I wanted to just give an overview of what we do, what it looks like a little bit behind the scenes, and just hopefully let everyone know a little bit about, I guess, what happens once you refer into OneLink, and a little bit about what we're doing to try and work more closely with the sector moving forward. We have 3 central functions of what we do. We either provide information for people to access support themselves in community and to navigate the sector. We also do assessment, intake and referral to make more of a formal connection for people to access community supports. We also hold the largest data set of what homelessness looks like in the ACT, and we do report that back to Housing ACT. And part of that as well is using that data to help advocate for change across the sector. So an example of that is for people on uncertain visa types. There isn't really a direct referral pathway into accommodation outside of a couple of services. So using that to really highlight need for wider change. We do operate every day of the year except for public holidays. It means that there is some long weeks in there, but we are able to be contacted on the phone every single day, except for the public holidays. We are co-located with Housing ACT. It means that we are only accessible face-to-face Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. There's a few different ways that you can connect with us. So you can contact us directly via phone. You can drop into Housing ACT. You can make a face-to-face appointment. We can receive a referral from a connected service, and that's through our online referral form or emailing inquiries to our monitored inbox. We also receive referrals from emergency services as well through our Support Link platform. But otherwise, reach out, give us a call, send us an email, and we can have a chat. We're not a crisis service, but we do respond to people who are in crisis, and that's a difficult space to work within. We are limited in what we can refer to because we can only refer to services that exist. We can only refer to services that do have capacity, and we can only refer when I guess a young person or family is appropriate for that service. So what that means is we do hold quite a lot of families and individuals across every month. We support well over 500 individuals and families at any given point in time, or any given month, sorry. So we are restricted in terms of the time that we can spend with people. And unfortunately, that's a limitation that is a reality, and we want to try and be as equitable as possible with how we spend that time. In practice, in theory, the best thing for us to do is have one conversation with the family, with the young person, with the individual, connect them to that service by understanding what's happening for them and really understanding their story, and then close. With, I guess, limited capacity, that's really difficult. So that's where we have to hold and, I guess, act as a primary support in some instances. So one thing that we try to do is really connect to a primary support, whatever that looks like. I think housing and homelessness is really the central reason why families and young people and individuals are really contacting us. But we can't always connect straight away. So we really want to position ourselves within the sector in a slightly different way. Over the last 12 months, we're looking at how we can triage and work with those services differently. A previous policy was to really connect those who needed it most at the time, but this created issues in relationships with those services. We wanted to position ourselves to walk with services to support successful service delivery, and really looking at those things down the bottom as something that we consider. So we have a strong focus on our scope of practice and our limitations as something that we're educating to the sector. We want to be clear that this assists with providing clear expectations for services and service users, and use it to advocate to our funding body to implement better, I guess, services and wraparound supports, including a better phone system, including callback features that can help with people accessing our support, with providing them an option to receive that callback, have a new position in the queue, and for us to respond in different ways as well. We hope to be more responsive and reactive. We implemented booking appointments at the front desk. We want to share core functions across our team, and we want to rewrite and document processes and messaging in a different way so we can be more responsive that way as well. That's just a really quick snapshot, I guess, of what the age demographic looks like for people accessing our support. I think, as you can see, or maybe you can't see, but about
You can see it later.
Yeah, about a quarter of that is young people. And that's, right on 25%. That's consistent throughout our support timeframe. So that only includes people and families who are presenting as, I guess, who are the presenting heads of that family. So that's not including children and other young people who are attached. So it's quite significant, and we really want to invite the youth sector to work with us to see how we can, help young people and families access other supports in the community. We do work really closely with Housing ACT, the assessing team and allocations team. We're unable to influence decisions made by Housing ACT, but we want to act as a conduit for services and people accessing, and trying to advocate as best as we can for information to be transferred across reasonably well. We want to highlight risk and vulnerability with assessing team, and we want to provide caseworkers and service users with information to assist their housing application. One thing, I guess, that would be helpful for us in working with the youth sector is really helping young people access our support. I think sometimes when young people are accessing our support, they're getting supported to call us with that service. That sometimes is a really good way to help them empower and to create self-agency. Other times it's helping, I guess, re-trigger or re-traumatize and create some service fatigue with that young person. So we really encourage services to help provide information in the first instance wherever possible, and that will help inform our conversation and help us with, getting their story and really being aware of what other factors are happening for them. So you can empower a young person to take action and support their self-agency through their initial phone calls, through contacting us after that referral, with preparing a young person to engage with that support through one link after they're connected. I think us being more relationship focused and relationship based is something that we're really focusing on as well. We've been, I think, in the past more focused on supporting people who needed the connection to service at that time. And that's more of an emergency style way of triaging. I guess if you think of it like a hospital, the people who need it the most at the time are seen first. But that's, I think, creating some challenges where people who are accessing one link to be connected to support at the time are then not being connected at an earlier point. So we're really focused on trying to work with services about what works best with them. I think we've created some blockages in the system by referring to people maybe who are experiencing quite a lot of complexity, and that's not created, I guess, a transition through that connected service. So I guess if we're referring a lot of rough sleepers without ID who have comorbid mental health, AAD, the support in that service means that they're not then transitioning into another accommodation option for a really long time. That's creating a lot of blockages, I guess, on our end and preventing other people from accessing that support. So I guess every service works differently at each time, and we're really wanting to have those conversations about what is going to work best for the cohort as a whole, what's going to work best for people accessing our support, and what's going to work best in terms of that service being able to transition and create some, I guess, some space in that vacancy for other families to prevent people from experiencing crisis. So Woden is operating the central intake service with a current end date of April 30th. There is a tender out, and that's closing on the 12th of November. So we're going to be working with service, the transition service across the start of next year. I don't know what that looks like. I can't answer any other questions around that, but the information around what that looks like can be found at those links there. So,
Beautiful.
thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Just had someone online ask, what's your experience in receiving referrals for a young person who's in Benbury? Like, is this common, particularly if they don't have a housing application submitted yet?
Yeah, we do receive referrals from people who are in incarceration. It's really difficult for us to then connect to a support directly from, I guess, people exiting the justice system or from incarceration, but we absolutely can complete an intake assessment. So when they are released and they are in community, then we can start to work with them to connect to support and other accommodation providers. Having a bailed address to an emergency accommodation option can be a challenge. But we would really be encouraging, I guess, that young person to be working with their justice worker or their youth around what their transition point from corrections would be.
Thank you. Speaking of connections, what a great segue. The team from Goongawan. It's got all sorts of quietness.
Yeah, very quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pete, yeah. Well, I'm Pete. Okay, we're here to talk about the Reconnect program at Goongawan, and if we have a little bit of time, we'll talk about Goongawan more broadly. But first and foremost, I'm going to introduce myself. My name's Malcolm Towney. I'm a proud Wiradjuri man from Central West New South Wales, a little town called Peak Hill, where affectionately known as the Red Dust Mob. A lot of red dirt out there. It's located between Parks and Dubbo. I would have said the Dish and the Zoo, but Parks and Dubbo. I have been down here since 1990. I've been part of this community. I've been a proactive member of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community. So I've been here for a while. My role out at Goongan, I am a team leader of two areas, Reconnect and Child Youth and Family Services. That's about me at the moment, until if we had time, I said we'll talk a little bit about Goongan and our program delivery. But here is the expert. Yeah, and be kind, because she was away on touch footy the last week, but I dragged her in here this morning.
Yeah. So very unprepared, but I'm lucky that I had a slideshow. So hi, I'm Susan Newman. I am a proud Wiradjuri woman from out Condobolin, Griffith and Forbes area, and a proud Darug woman from around the Blue Mountains area. And I've got some family in the room, which is good to see. And my other partner in crime is Pete Williams, and unfortunately he's on sorry business at the moment, so he couldn't be here. So the overview of the Reconnect program. So the Reconnect program is funded through the Department of Social Services. And is an early intervention program targeting First Nations youth between the ages of 12 and 18 who are vulnerable to homelessness and have already recently become homeless. The Reconnect is a client-centred service to empower our clients to make positive and sustainable choices through their goals, their case plans, and one program that actively going surrounded by wraparound services from our other programs, including the Drug and Alcohol Mental Health and the CYFS team and group program deliverers. So Guggengowan provides a specialised and specific Reconnect service that is tailored for our young First Nations people and delivers that through the supports of healing and strengthening our young people and their families through an early intervention focus. Reconnect continues to network strongly with schools and accommodation services and other relevant agencies to provide the best possible care and outcomes for our First Nations young people. Time. So a lot of our barriers that our young people and families that we see, family breakdowns and young people becoming homeless, families may be facing issues including unstable housing. This could be, through relocating, waiting for long-term housing and accessibility to services. This can have a flow-on effect for our young persons, resulting in issues such as disengagement in education, isolations from the community, and difficulty in relationships with their parents or caregivers because of family conflict and crises within the community and families. These issues may be directly related to financial difficulties, alcohol or other drug issues, and family violence as well. This slideshow will be supported and sent through to you all as well, so I don't want to go through into deep detail. How we deliver our specialised Reconnect program is with accommodation arrangements for our young persons homeless or at risk of homelessness, kinship care, staying with extended family members and refuges. And this is to improve engagement and individual sense of belonging. Oh, yes, sorry. Okay. Belonging in the community through programs, events, and our person's interests. We support the entire family through processes and other agencies such as Care and Protection and ACT Housing Settling for One Week. What we're doing well is creating and identifying opportunities for our First Nations families through healthy relationships, building resilience, capacity and self-determination. Financial support through financial counselling and banking the other families that require that support additionally as well. And Department of Education, school information, learning pathways and resources. We have identified what we can do better, and that is a big thing with promotion of Guggengowan services to many services out there in the community. We feel like we do have a voice out in the community, and we know that all of our services that we have here today and online can connect much more with the Guggengowan services for your First Nations families as well. So please do not please feel free to make contact with us should you have any questions or support for our First Nations families. Our aims objectives for the Reconnect 2024 is to increase the school attendance by liaising and advocation on behalf of our clients and families. One thing that we have discovered is a big barrier these days is our youths not engaging in education. We are finding that many of our schools are encouraging our children to attend school with less hours throughout the day, which is a massive barrier. We want our kids in our schools. So that's something that we do find a big struggle today. Our collaborative work through the Reconnect program is developing the effective working relationships with us, other services, as I've already mentioned. Participants participate in relevant interagency networks, trainings and forums, which is what we're doing here today. And I'll let Malcolm speak a little about our other programs with you again.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that, but one thing we are finding in schools as well is that when I used to go to school, they're still using the same dialogue with our, especially with our young people, is that you're old enough to leave. There's no point coming staying at school and they leave. But another thing too is when we have certain schools that specialise in certain areas, sports, so forth. Concentrate not on their academia, it's just they're on the sporting prowess. But when that when the what's the word? When the footy or whatever's finished, what do they do with our young people? Nothing. They get their point system through whatever they have to do, then they leave. Some of these kids go through year 12 and barely writing their own names. That happened back when I was at school, and it's still happening today. So so the Reconnect team, we support our families, our youth, but the education agencies and the schools and that as well. So we go in there. Teachers teach. I couldn't do that. Teachers, but they teach without knowing any background information about our young people. That's where we come. We, through our case management model, especially our Reconnect workers, they go and fill into through case conferencing and so forth. But they let the teachers or let the school or whoever, the welfare officers, whatever, know about what's going on with this young person. Then we work collectively or collaboratively together. But what was I talking about now? Right. Our plans. Before I'll give you a little bit more insight about Goon for those who don't know much about Goon or know about Goon. There's two components to Goon. We have our case management model that is our core business. That's where we were set up to support our families, especially our young people. The other component of it is our program delivery. So we've got school holiday programs. We've got young men's group. We've got young women's group. We've got arts for therapy program. We've got music programs. Which one? Tutoring program. That's what these guys look after. Our Reconnect workers, they look after our tutoring program, which is very, very high in demand. And we do have a waiting list on that. And it's normally next term with they're already next term.
We've advertised it this year, and that was at the start of the year, and we've not advertised it again because of our wait list. It's just.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
So our participants that put in an expression of interest are entitled to 10 one-hour sessions per week, so over a school term. And as I've said, the wait list is ridiculously long. However, we do just take them throughout the year. You know, you might have some students that are not engaging in school or not engaging in the tutoring program. Therefore, we'll place a hold on their participation within it, and then they can pick it up at a later stage. So it'll kind of build. So their hours will get chewed up by another participant that may have just been sitting on a wait list until we can get them back engaged in school. So that's one of the priorities that we offer, is that they have to be engaged in their education. And
we're all referral based. You can have walk-ins, over phone, anything referral based. But we have a 2-worker policy as well, and we're heavy on outreach as well. So we have the capacity to visit any of your services or education settings or whatever it is. So we're heavy on that. But our 2-worker policy is it works for us, and that's for making sure that we don't miss anything, making sure that the messages are reciprocal. What else would we? Well, we do a lot of events. We do our significant events as well. We do NAIDOC week. That's one of our biggest events. We have about 250 odd families attending. We do our Christmas party at the end of the year, which is we cater for 400 young people and families. 400 young people as in gifts. So they turn up, they receive a gift, or Santa and schools and all that. But yeah, and we are going into the silly season right now, so we're going to be pretty occupied in with our events and whatever our families need support as well. So we're basically set up. We're basically set up 33 years ago to make sure that our young Aboriginal people have the opportunities of non-Aboriginal people, and that's what we're there for: is provide options and opportunities for our families.
So we not only just case manage the individual client, we'll case manage the entire family. No, it's a core group that we provide. And we also do the street beat program.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So the street beat program is run on a Friday and Saturday night between the hours of 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. Staff are out there handing out
Our core business and our
condoms.
compliment packs.
Yeah.
And also making sure young people are safe and have a yarn. And we also have the capacity to escort that young person home. And we've had to do it with police intervention. So we just go up and have a yarn, see what's going on, and if the police depends on the circumstances as well, so we'll escort them home. Is there any questions? I know I missed a few things there, but is there any questions?
We do have bodies that attend Benbury and AMC.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I noticed you were saying that advocacy is one of your priorities.
Yes.
Because clearly you guys do a lot, but also you mentioned that the tutoring program has a really long wait list.
Yeah.
So how do you do your advocacy work? Like, is it something that, I come from ACOS, I'm from ACT Council of Social Services.
Yeah.
So looking for areas where there might be gaps for some services where they need support from other services.
Yeah.
Is that where you have other avenues to help?
So we sometimes have the Smith family will come forward with additional hours that we can get those people that are sitting on. We try not to keep them on the wait list very long, and we understand that our students, that are reaching out for the support now need it now. So we'll try and advocate that through our case management. That if it's the staff going into the schools and supporting with the education department and saying, okay, this is where the child is at, what can we do, or what can you do in the meantime to get them there until we can provide them with the tutoring program that way with advocacy.
And like somebody said before about the homelessness, we do navigate homelessness services, but we're not a specialised homelessness.
Yeah. We're not a crisis service either, but however.
And we don't do clinical, we don't do legal, but we navigate with our families, to navigate those systems and support them through that.
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Alrighty, Oasis.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Andrew. I work for the Salvos and we look after the Oasis Housing and Support Program. So our programs basically came online as the 1st of July as a result of all the recommissioning, and it's sort of a growth from what we were previously doing. We call it, it's based on the model of housing first. So housing being a right for everyone, ensuring that sort of everyone has access to safe housing. Principles housing first, as you can see there, there's no preconditions. We have some youth choice into self-determination. We're not time limited, so I'll talk about our housing pathways, how they fit into the picture, and we're talking very much about social community engagement across our programs. Leading into our tender, we talked to young people about what they wanted. We had some youth consultations because we were keen to understand sort of what young people needed, what they wanted from a service such as ours. A couple of the key takeaways were majority of young people, as a result of family domestic breakdown, a large majority of young people need housing assistance. That helped sort of to formulate some key partnerships. Another thing was that a lot of young people present to us with again, listening to what they said. One of the big key features was that came out of the program, the consultations, was that young people that head case managers were just sick of chopping and changing. It wasn't a trauma-informed model. So we've really settled upon young people having a case manager throughout the duration of their stay within our program. It'll come a little bit more clear as I talk about our housing pathways. We're focused on rapid rehousing young people, the appropriate safe supportive housing, coupled with other specialist therapeutic interventions, which I'll also discuss. Model employs a very much participatory approach because the young people are experts in what they require. We want to listen and raise their voice within what we're doing in the context of our program. So I talked about partnerships. So based on the two things that the young people told us, we wanted to partner very intentionally. So we've partnered with Graham City Health, who operate the Headspace services throughout the LCT. So we have dedicated access to mental health clinicians and support they provide. Waiting lists, as you'll all be aware, for psychological counselling services are pretty huge for young people. So have that as a dedicated resource. So we can identify that at intake for a young person and refer them straight in. So they're getting that support at the outset of their journey with us. The other one was conflict resolution services. We partnered with them, which we're really excited about. As I said, family breakdown is a huge reason young people become homeless. So being able to work with them, particularly at the outset of a young person's journey, before they even come into our program, we can identify an opportunity to keep that young person at home by building strength in their family. We can stop them entering an SHS service such as ours. Where that's not possible or safe to do so, we will work with that individual, their family, to build strength in those networks while they're residing in our program, hopefully limiting the time that they're going to spend with us, which is ideal. And also we can work just with the young person as well to build strength in their communications, their skills to engage, hopefully successfully with family as well. So they were really exciting partnerships for us. We also partner with Salvation Army Housing, which is a community housing provider that works within the portfolio of Salvation Army services. Wanted to have a very clear delineation between case management services and tenancy management services. I didn't want my case managers chasing them for rent. I didn't want them saying, oh, your house is not clean. The case managers could focus on the things and work with people really holistically, whereas the property and tenancy could be managed by an independent organisation, but who has that friendly landlord approach. It has that soft approach to support young people, trying to replicate a realistic model that young people eventually need to move when they move out of our services, hopefully into the open market, but with a soft approach to that, which is working really well. So housing pathways is so talking about the family and care at home, so we can keep people at home. That's a win-win straight up. So we have crisis accommodation. So we operate 3 crisis sites, 18 beds across Canberra, 24 hours, 7-day-a-week support. We then have what we call transitional housing pathways. So we have, I think, 72 community transitional beds across Canberra, across a number of different locations, geographically spread throughout Canberra. We also have what we call our educational tiered pathway. Again, that's looking at, when I say it's a housing first model, but this is longer term housing for younger people. Young people can stay in their educational pathway housing while they complete a 4-year degree, while they complete a 4-year apprenticeship, or if they're working full time. And they're 30 units that we're bringing online, unfortunately slowly, more slowly than I'd like, repurposing the old criminal court site. I am hoping to have 4 units online in the next probably 2 weeks. But very keen to have the rest online as soon as possible. And we also have what we call our private rental assistance scheme, which is quite exciting because it's a pathway out of homelessness for young people. It's working with young people and our housing partner, Salvos Housing, to actually source open market, private market tenancies, working with real estate agents, community-minded landlords, and by providing case management support during the first 12 months of that tenancy, taking out the tenancies in our name and then handing that over to young people, and also providing some brokerage support to reduce the rent they're paying, tapering that off over a 12-month period, to hopefully support these young people to leave the system that we're all involved in and actually be successful in renting their own place. So that's the breakdown of our properties. I'll just go, I'll sort of talk to that really quickly. We have a dedicated central intake officer, so they work quite closely with Joel and his team at OneLink. We basically list vacancies. We don't really determine to OneLink if they're a crisis, if they're transitional, if they're educational. We interview, we talk to the young people, we do an initial assessment, we work with them to try to understand what they're looking for. We try to make decisions in contribution with them. So we may determine by having a conversation that they've got the independent living needs. They don't need that central response. They don't need that 24-hour, 7-day-a-week support. They may just be able to slide into one of our transitionals. Or we determine that they're quite young, they may need some additional assistance, and they might start in our crisis space. As I said, there's no time limit, so no one's journey is linear. We could have someone who might be in crisis space for a couple of months. They develop the skills, they just need some tweaking of their independent living skills. We're able to then move across to transitional when we have vacancies and even the educational tiered pathways. So as I said, we could have young people living with us. Potentially we work with people from 15 to 24. We could have young people living with us for a number of years in that space. So we also have a dedicated living and lifestyle participation worker that works with us. So their role is to develop programs for young people to attend based on young people's needs. We're looking at, and we're not at that stage yet, we're only fairly new, but our participations workers, our aim is to develop a youth advisory group, to have that group really basically made up of the young people in our program to help us determine what programs they want, what things they want to be doing. It's looking at some of the stuff Joel was doing, is doing some of those, joining community activities, some of the leadership groups that Malcolm was talking about. It's an exciting space. It's just very new to us, so that's something we're working on across the program. Having the resources now to do that's really exciting as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes in the coming months. With our youth advisory group too, we're also looking to pay a young person to lead that group. So make it a paid role within the program that will probably rotate on a 12 to 2 year period. Just not sure yet, but making it a real valued role within the program. And I mean, my goals are to see that group working and eventually lobby to government about youth issues, being involved in the youth codes, advisory groups, and feeding into other important things that we see in the youth sector. I think it's probably got pretty quickly, so that's an overview. So we'll send this presentation out for people. So we take our referrals from OneLink. We try to do that, so there's data capture. We do take referrals from others, but we also try to make sure everyone's registered with OneLink. Any questions?
What's your referral pathway for crisis?
Going OneLink now.
Yeah, but if OneLink, if it's the crisis in after hours.
Yeah, we don't really have capacity to do sort of, someone turns up at our service, can we house them? It's very vacancy dependent. Yeah. We can be pretty quick. Crisis, we focus on housing very fast. Yeah, it's we know it's a gap, but we try to house it very quickly. And again, as I said, vacancy dependent. That's across all of our pathways into housing. Yeah.
Why is the age only to 24?
Contractual obligations. We were 16 to 25. They've dropped it back to 15 to 24 in the new contracts.
At 24 and 300 and something days.
I've got some people who have aged out of the program at the moment. We're going to find an outcome for them before we don't say, oh, 24.
Happy 25th birthday.
We've got to get good outcomes, and that's how we've always operated. But crisis spaces, we had a few time limits in our contract. We said, no, we can't work like that. It's all about the outcomes. So we need to work with someone because I think everyone's individual. Everyone needs different responses. So to be able to get those good outcomes, we need the time that we need to get them. So.
Just got a question online. Someone saw a youth case manager with AOD experience advertised with Alberta. I'm just wondering if that's going to be part of the game.
Yeah, no, it will be. It's we've tried to hit on sort of a lot of the key. So we've got a bit of an ecosystem of services we can provide. So the mental health, the family conflict resolution, looking at the AOD side of things, and I think I've found someone for that role now, which is great. So hoping to have them start with us very soon. So we've got a team of I'll have a team of about 8 caseworkers who work across the programs. We've split sort of transitional to a transitional team lead and a crisis team lead that run the operations of sort of both those sides of what we do. So.
Model. Does that mean that we're going to see less young people being refused into these services when they have sort of significant mental health issues, as well as saying we've got staff coming on who can handle the alcohol?
It comes down to risk. When it's risk for young people, so if risks are identified as too high, which we've got a lot of mitigators now that we've brought into the program, yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more young people coming into the program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Alrighty, next up we have Tura Women.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting Tura to this. Yeah, I don't have a formal presentation, so I'll go through the notes and then I'll leave the questions at the end. Does that sound okay? Yeah, okay. A bit about me. First, I'm Arpa Bedi. I'm the director for Tura Women. My area looks after domestic violence, homelessness, poverty, and eating. Okay, so a bit about Tura, I think, to start with. Many of you probably are aware, but I'll just say Tura's been delivering the gender-specific services to women, people identifying as women, and is in ACT and surround since 1982, so around 42 plus years already on there. And the key purpose for us is to support, advocate, and connect for women who are impacted by domestic violence, homelessness, institutions, substance abuse, and dependency. And the idea is to give them better life outcomes and influence that change in the community as well. So the services Tura provides, they cover the domestic violence services, homelessness, of course, the housing, and family and children support, alcohol and drug dependency. I'll go into the AOD, the work we do, counseling, and we have a lot of other supports which are tailored to women based on their individual needs on there. So I would say we are proud to support at least 500 women each year and their children, accompanying children. With them as well. And around 199 out of that 500 are under 25. And around 120 of those come to us in crisis. Okay. So that's just the rough kind of the stats. And we've noticed that in the last 12 months, our demand for the services has significantly escalated, as most of you agreed here as well. I'll go about some of the things. Many of the clients in general who are affected by the homelessness are also affected by other factors. They could be DV, they could be dependency and other mental health issues as well. And our housing program is for 16 plus. That's the age group for the women coming into our housing. And most of the women and their accompanying children coming into it are, they're coming into housing, but then they have issues, they need assistance with financial issues, interpersonal relationships as well, health concerns, and other services as well. So what we do at Tura, we holistically work with the women to see the intersections between all these things to provide support to them there. And with the holistic approach we just see that many of the women, we support them through the life-altering events and provide them with tools to break the cycles of the trauma and then have better life outcomes on there. I'll go a bit into our AOD, alcohol and drug, on there because that's a significant part of our programs as well. So the age group for coming for that is 18 plus coming into the AOD. And at Tura, we provide again gender specific because we are providing services by women for women and people identifying as women. So it's alcohol and drug treatment services, and we offer a broad range of treatment and support services specifically for women with alcohol, drug, and other addictions. So we do ACT and surround for that work. And I think our team really works collaboratively with the women, their children accompanying, and non-judgmental, of course, and respectfully support them. And many of them, it's a step-by-step journey to reduce the use and then overcome their drug use as well. So the key part of our program is minimizing their substance and drug-related harm and maximizing their health benefits on that. So we have programs in that, in the alcohol and drug, which could be as simple as counseling, outreach support to coming into the residential programs as well. So we have residential in-house treatment. We have around 10 beds in that AOD residential at one point in time for women to come in, stay there and go through the treatment on there. And talking a bit of the treatment, we have a fully trained team, and we use evidence-based methodologies to provide that treatment, support them. And the aim is to reach ongoing for them being sober, and they can achieve their goals of their, and I said age for AOD is 14 plus. And we also have a very significant clinical team as well. That's because all the, we have very trained counselors who are leveraging the strengths of the clients and working, together with them to influence and get them fight the trauma, and they can get to positive outcomes. So there's always, your clients always have some strengths, and I think our counselors try to find that strength in that and leverage of that. So, support on them. And some of the tailored evidence-based treatments, and the therapeutic interventions used by the counselors are motivational interviewing, solution-focused therapy, cognitive behavior therapies, and many others. And the counselors also, a clinical team runs a variety of programs. It could be group programs as well for parenting, children, mothers and children coming with them. And the sessions on this day programs, they could attend either the whole day program all day, or they could attend various sessions on that. Some of the sessions could mean that they are getting financial savviness, there, someone wants to get a job, skills, training, in any area they want support with. So that's how we work holistically. There's no set. Every client coming to us has a different goals and what they're wanting. So we work holistically with them to support them in their So I think some of the counseling key one we do is to address the trauma, and it's with the DV, sexual violence as well, alcohol, drug dependency, of course, homelessness, issues with their children, mental health issues. And we also provide support to women exiting the corrections on there. So we do that. We provide some counseling there while they are in the corrections, or homelessness service when they are exiting the corrections on there as well. So we have a special program on there. We have another program which is which is called a subsidy-based program. So it's a homelessness program where Tura will provide a rental subsidy to those women who are independent, but they may have come out of the DV or homeless situation, are waiting for their funds to arrive, or waiting to get a job, where we can then provide them with a subsidy. But the aim of that program is to get them to either sustain the tenancy at the end of the 12 months. So that program is quite good as well for women who are wanting to semi on their feet, but wanting to get on their feet. So that's the kind of the work that Tura has. And I'll give you some stats as well. In 22-23, Tura provided over 90,000 days of service to over 500 women across ACT. And I talked about the youth in there, and the coming with the children, and the crisis as well. So we have around 50 properties. 13 of them are shared houses as well, and the rest are freestanding. So we provide the shared ones, and we have a couple of crisis homes as well on there. The idea is the women and their children coming to us are on a journey. They are there, and we help them to reach their end goal, which could be a variety of things, whether they sustain it independently, or their end game could be looking as a housing, or moving interstate, staying safe, getting their health back, and getting their confidence back. So that's the work Tura does in general. Happy to take any questions. Yeah.
Is your service visa dependent? You need a permanent visa to access your service. So
Good question. I think we don't demarcate with that as well.
Yep.
On there, we don't, because it's a women coming in crisis.
Yeah.
On there, and we do work with the Home Affairs sometimes if there's someone on a temporary and DV's the cause to advocate for them.
Yeah, cool, thanks.
Anyone else?
With the ASD program, do they do detox as well, or do they come probably to do sober beforehand?
We do detox as well on there, yeah. coming into that is. And most of our referrals, I think I could say 99% come from one link because they're the rules, so on there. And then we also get referrals from the DBCS and other services as well for the crisis many times. I think that's the key. I was just going to mention something else from where you asked. And we participate sort of in the crisis homes. We also have after our caretakers. So the day staff works until 5, as we all do. So we have after our caretakers who come at 5 and then they are on till next morning, and they are available for our women and children for support in the shared houses usually, or in the alcohol and drug residential. So that's quite a significant support to our clients as well with our afterwards caretakers. Lovely. Any more questions? Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Alrighty, next up, Ted Knopfs. Oh, okay. Well, we'll send out an update about them afterwards. You're in your house.
Yeah, great. This is my PowerPoint.
Excellent.
First, I just actually wanted to thank all of the services in this room, because all of the work that you do enables us to provide the best service we possibly can to women we support. So thank you. So Corinna House, we've been around 27 years in the ACT. Our mission's pretty simple and it hasn't changed. We exist to support women who are pregnant or parenting small children and are in crisis. So the only real criteria you need to be eligible for Corinna House is to have either be pregnant or to have a baby, a newborn under 3 months of age at the time of referral. We, once you are referred into Corinna House, however, we are able to support you for as long as you need. So for some women, they may come back into our service over a decade, for example, with future children, should life change and they need to seek our support again. For some women, the support might be 6 months. For others, it might be 3 years. So we really are very much driven by the woman and her needs. Age, we don't have any age limitations. We've supported girls, young women as young as 13, 14. I think the oldest woman we've supported is 42. The average age of women we support is around 27, but the range is quite wide. I guess to give you a sense of the different vulnerabilities or challenges women we support are experiencing when they come to Corinna House. Unfortunately, we know that at the moment a woman falls pregnant, she is at risk of almost greater risk of almost every vulnerability than almost any other time in her life. So, for example, the statistic which always shocks me is almost 1 in 3 first-time single mothers will experience domestic family violence by the time their child is 4, 1 in 3, which is pretty shocking. So around about 70% of women last year identified domestic family violence either currently or in their history when they referred to us. About 65% were homeless or experiencing housing insecurity. Majority of women are experiencing mental health challenges. We also have a number of women we support who have had past complications with drug and alcohol use. We are a drug and alcohol-free service, but for some women that's been part of their journey. Around about 30% of women we support identify as coming from culturally, linguistically diverse backgrounds, and around 15% identify as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. And most women are living at or below the poverty line, essentially. So despite all of these vulnerabilities, we also know that pregnancy can be a time for a lot of women where they're looking to make change and act of their own agency, either because they're engaging more with services or because their calculus and their decision making is changing because they're now making decisions based not only on themselves, but also their children and their babies. So it is an incredible privilege what we get to do and to support women during this both very vulnerable but also very empowering time in their lives. So what do? We are very much a women-led service, so women determine what their goals are and their plans, because for each woman, her circumstance looks quite different. We we are a voluntary service, so a woman has to want to be engaged by Carina House. And we also have quite a focus on care and compassion, which I'm sure a lot of services do in this room, because recognising that for a lot of women we support, they don't have a support network, or if they have one, it's not necessarily a positive support network. So we want to be able to offer that care and compassion to a woman, particularly women who may not have experienced that before. So our main service that we offer is casework. So we are a full wraparound casework service. So once a woman's referred in and we've met her and she's determined that Carina House is the place for her to be supported, she will determine her own casework plan. That extends across sort of 7, 8 domains around her empowerment, her sense of self. She may have goals around education and employment longer term, safety, obviously, housing, and also often legal, and of course her health and the health of her baby and child as well. So we provide that casework support in 2 main ways. We have a residential facility, so we are a specialist homelessness service. That's at a confidential location in the ACT. We can house up to 11 women plus their babies and children at any one time. And that is a 24/7 service. So like Tura, in the day we have caseworkers, and then overnight we actually have a support worker who sleeps in the shared accommodation there, and they are available 24/7. So they'll do everything from how do I cook a chicken schnitzel to taking a woman to hospital when she's in labour, to helping with breastfeeding, whatever emotional support, whatever a woman and her children need. On top of that, we support around about 30, 40 women at any one time in the community. So they're often women who have somewhere suitable enough to live, but they will receive all of the other casework and wraparound support from us. So just very practically, what does that support actually look like? I was thinking today what the team are doing. There's a couple of babies in the office, so some of the team are providing respite while a woman's going to get her learner's driver's licence. Another member of the team is driving a woman interstate so she can visit some of her older children who are currently not in her care. 2 weeks ago, we had a staff member go to Canberra Hospital and she was the labour support, which is an incredible privilege for a woman while she was giving birth. And I know that our property manager will be in the house at the moment showing everyone how to wash clothes and to hang them in a particular order. So essentially, we're a pretty flexible and fully wraparound service. The length of stay, I mean, again, we don't have a set time frame for most women. I think they find that Carina House, if they choose to live at Carina House, that's most useful for that kind of 6 to 9 month period, that really intensive period when you've got a newborn baby, and particularly if you're a first time mum. We have had women stay up to 2, 3 years. However, we often find that we are a safe house. You can't have visitors. You have to let us know when you're coming and going. We've got staff there 24/7. So longer term, most women, as they're feeling more independent, do want to move out into the community. For us, that is beholden to what public housing is available, of course. So some of the same bottlenecks everyone else experiences. We are not a crisis service. So if you turn up today, we set up to be able to house a woman tonight. So we work very closely with DVCS, Tura, OneLink, other crisis services who often refer into Carina House. But we do try to move as quickly as we can if, for example, weeks if a woman is in a situation in crisis accommodation where she does want to move into Carina. How to refer, last thing, really any way. So most of our referrals are actually self-referrals, but we receive referrals from midwives, GPs, Multicultural Hub, Tura, other services, and of course we receive referrals as well through OneLink. And email or give us a call, and then usually we would call the woman back. We'd quite like to talk to her, and then if she feels that Carina House sounds appropriate for her, we would then go and meet her and start the process. So that was all from me. Happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. That means we've covered everything. We did have someone from CIT who was hoping to come along and give a bit of an update about what's happening with the youth foyer, but unfortunately they're unwell. So we will send out a bit of an update, but just, I guess, a couple of other services who weren't able to be here to give an update on them is that, so CIT at Woden, as part of the development of what's happening there, they're going to have a foyer model, which is similar to the one that Our Place spoke about. I believe that it's going to be 30 beds opening sometime next year-ish. We will try to send out a bit more of an update. I was hoping to get an update as well today, what was happening there. So we do know that that service is going to be coming online sometime soon. The Ted Knopf's 350 and Street University program. So Street University has a space in Civic. It operates as like a kind of drop-in space and a space for young people to go and hang out. They have a lot of really great kind of creative programs and activities that they do, really trying to give young people an outlet and a space where they can get connected in with other services, get connected in with the supports that they do, and have opportunities to learn and to grow in ways that they don't necessarily get while they're growing up or through other programs. I think that's it, but if I've missed anyone, then...
I was just going to say Ted Knox is actually coming to the school that I'm at and doing drug and alcohol counselling with students as well.
Yeah, great, cool. So, and they do have a, sorry, thank you, that's a good reminder. So they do have a drug and alcohol residential program that's here in the ACT, and sometimes young people will be a part of that program and then transition into some of the other services that are presented today, but they are primarily a drug and alcohol service. They do have a program called 350 where they offer some accommodation to young people who have graduated from the drug and alcohol program and are still needing housing support as well. So we'll send out the contact details and a bit more information about those programs. And then our last presentation today is from Housing ACT.
It's so much busier than last time I came in here. Grab this.
Yeah, sure, sorry.
Just that one. Cool. So from Housing ACT, we're the youth program. We've got Lakina here as well. She's stepped in for a little while, and Jack as well, our assistant director. Let's jump into it. The slideshow is probably not the best one for it. There's a little information talking about some other, about process stuff when someone is ready to come to priority. But I'd like to talk about just what we are. So we're different to the normal approach with housing in that we work specifically with young people who are aged 16 to 25 that fit inside of our criteria. We'll get to that one in a moment. But the things we do different is we work with someone from an application point all the way up until they're a tenant, and we keep working with them as a tenant. To keep that consistency, we've got that trauma-informed approach so that we're a familiar face, they know who we are, they don't have to tell the story all over again. We're already across it mostly. We're a little bit more intensive. We try and have a smaller caseload so that we can be more accessible to our tenants, applicants, support services that are connected with the young people. And stability for us looks like managing debt, neighbourhood disputes and conflicts, things along those lines, and property condition, of course. We're not case managers. We like to refer for those sorts of things, and ideally we'd like our young people to already be connected to some supports when they come into the program. Case management, any drug and alcohol support that they might be working with, or if they're like young parents, those sort of supports there. And if they're missing, we can try and work through that as well, and see what referrals can be sent out. This is our criteria. So 16 to 25, young people that have been placed in out-of-home care through CIPS orders, or involved in or exiting youth justice. We also have a little bit of very minor discretion around that, if that can be taken on a case-by-case basis. If there's enough complexities in the young person's background that kind of highlight they're going to need the additional support, and again, ideally that they are connected with some supports to work with that. So we've got someone to bounce back and forth with that sort of wraparound support there. And our referral process is an internal process. When an application comes through, it will arrive at the assessing team. They will identify if it's an application that may or may not be should be sitting with us. It will get referred up. We'll have a dig around, see if it fits, and give a yes or a no. That's where I'm going to leave it. The next few slides are more about like the PNR process. So that's probably not one for this one. Happy to answer some questions if anyone has any though. Hello.
I have a question. So I work in out-of-home care,
Mhm.
and I'm just kind of wondering what the go is for putting in like a PNR if a young person who's in care wants to have a joint application with someone else who's not in care.
Okay. That is a difficult question, and it does come up. If that were to come, I'd like to know as much about the other person as possible. Hopefully they connected with someone that has some information about why they're joining on the application. You know,
The other person used to be in care a couple of years ago, but they're not currently.
yeah. Look, it's going to be a different answer for every applicant, I suppose. One thing to really consider with those circumstances is it's a tenancy like that will be under the name of the primary applicant, and if anything were to happen with the relationship a couple of years down the track, then they're both equally entitled to the property, and that's a bit of a concern. I reckon ideally work with that person to get their own application in through the priority, but if they've got a really strong connection and it's their application, they can choose to have someone else on their application if they want to. We would like to know as much about that person as possible, know what their ability to sustain is and those sorts of things, and kind of assess it on those bases. Hey, John.
Hello. A statement and a question. First and foremost, I know we personally at Royal Potential absolutely love working with you and the team, and great success. I put that first. It's a bit of a question. So it said out-of-home care or justice, and then it said a case by case, and I think it's a disability, trauma, and transient for people outside of that. For us, that would probably represent 99.99% of our cohort.
Yeah.
I guess what's the process for us to be able to, on a case by case basis, put the best case forward for the person to receive your support?
What we need to look at is it gets referred over to us.
Yeah.
And then we look at it as a case by case basis. So we need to be able to see first and foremost that there's supports in place.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we need to look at the history of the young person. With the youth housing managers, we keep their portfolios quite small. So at the moment, they're carrying a caseload between applications and tenancies of around 110 each, which is actually double the amount of our housing practitioners. So if we want to provide a quality service, we need to make sure that the young people that we're bringing in, we're able to actually manage their tenancy, their application holistically to ensure best customer facing service. So we would actually look at it on a case by case basis, but what we want to see is supports in place. We also consider, has there been previous care and protection involvement and youth justice? So we look at all those factors before bringing it in, but we would always explain our decisions.
Yeah, and the definition of out-of-home care for housing sake is under child protection orders previously.
Exiting, ready to exit. So they've been in some sort of placement with CYF and they're ready for that exiting process. And then we work with the agency around exiting and getting an application in and making sure we're across everything.
Thanks, Jack. Hey.
Interstate youth.
Our eligibility for housing across the board is a resident of the ACT for 6 months. Depending on the circumstances of why they're coming into the ACT for housing, there can be discussion about that to be had. But that is not a decision that I make myself. I can ask the question and write the brief and see what happens. But it's very dependent on why they're coming back. If there were like strong family connections or cultural reasons why they'll come back to Canberra, that would be something to look at. If it was just hopping from city to city, that's different. That
We've
makes
got room to move under the hardship clause under the program, the housing needs program, but, you know, as Josh was touching on, there has to be a reason as to why they're coming into the ACT. So we usually see hardship being applied in cases where it's someone residing interstate that may be leaving a family violence situation and coming to the ACT because that's where family is. We certainly do have some provision to move around waivering that requirement, but yeah, it needs to be a solid case and usually backed up with documentation from supports.
Any other questions? Oh, hello.
One more question. Are you aware if, let's say, New South Wales or equivalent have got equivalent type of a?
I'm not aware. Aware if New South Wales have a program like we do? I don't know. Jack, do you know?
I was at the Homelessness Forum in Darwin back in May. There are a number of interstate housing authorities, not necessarily government, that have similar but not the same. So there's one in Western Australia called Mercy Care. They also have programs similar to what Carina offers, as well as young people as well, but it's a little bit different to what we're doing.
Hey, Deb.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
Do you identify stock within your housing portfolio for young people?
I guess, like, I was in the allocation team before in the youth housing team, so I think I've got a good answer for this. So we don't match applicants to the properties. We take a property and we move through the applicants and we find the one that fits to the property. A lot of things are taken into consideration while we're matching those properties, as well as the neighbourhood and the suitability of putting vulnerable people in those neighbourhoods. We're aware that we do have some areas that are not ideal for people with certain vulnerabilities and then not considered for young people. Not entirely. There's a degree of, if we just decide like, oh no, we're not going to put any young person in this area because we think it's not suitable, we would be towing the line of disadvantage to young people as well, where actually it might be perfectly suitable for them. We've just made a decision on our back, like, oh no. I don't know if you travel there, Jack, you look like you're about to say something.
Want me to say something?
I don't know.
Most of the young people that we're housing are generally a single applicant. So most of our housing 1 and 2 bedroom stock is going to be within a complex. I mean, we would never look at looking at the Ainsley precinct, like Canangras and that. We certainly wouldn't think that would be an appropriate allocation for someone that may be in youth justice or coming out of the CYF system. But we would certainly make a considered approach. But as Josh was touching on, we need to consider their human rights. And if we make a judgment without actually discussing it with the person, then, that's not really a cool way for us to manage. But yeah, we would certainly make an informed decision around the allocation. We also think about things like the complex history, like is it, one that's on our radar with high level of complaints or antisocial behaviours, given the pathway for some of our young people and most of it being trauma-based. We certainly don't want to add to that by putting them in something, but we have many considerations, as Josh was touching on.
Any others? Fantastic.
Yeah.